Welcome to Beyond the Pulpit with Bishop Kevin, the show that is spiritual but not churchy. Each week, Bishop talks to different guests about real-life situations. If you want to support the Beyond the Pulpit podcast, head over to www.kevinwillisministries.org/podcast for more information. Now let's get into our episode.
Well, this is Bishop. It is another week on Beyond the Pulpit. I am so glad to be on with a very special guest. This young brother is running for mayor. I'm going to tell you about him in just a minute, but we've had just an incredible year, and this is another studio guest that is just going to blow you away. I'm excited about the conversation with him. We're going to get some insight into not only who he is, but what he endeavors to do for the city of Memphis. And so I want you to welcome Paul Young. He is a candidate for the mayoral election, city of Memphis, where there are probably 10,000 other people running. Right. But he most definitely is a candidate. And I'm going to give him to you. His dad was just one of my favorite people in the world. I'd known his mom and dad over 30 years. And so great stock, great people, great ministry. Mom and dad are trailblazers in the city. Reverend Dr. William Young, just a trailblazer, not only in the city, but in the state of Tennessee. And his mom, Diane, everybody loves her. Preached for us one time, and we had to go get her because she was tearing up stuff.
That's what
so
she did.
I'm just thrilled to have Paul in the studio with us. You can say whatever you want to say. We gonna roll.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm glad to be here. It's been an exciting journey over the past few months, and I'm just having fun, and so excited about having conversations like this, real down to earth dialogue. I feel real comfortable in these types of environments because you can get a lot of messages out in a very conversational way. So I appreciate you having me.
That is cool. How long has this? I guess let me say it the way I really want to say it. How long have we really been engaged in this political process for mayor now? Has it been a year? Or?
It's been a long time for me.
Okay.
I mean, some people are recently getting in, but we started our campaign September 1st of last year.
Wow.
We're by the time the election happens, October 5th, we will have been in the race for a full 13 months.
Oh, wow.
It's a long journey, but it's worth it, and I'm inspired. I always tell people I wish you could see Memphis through my eyes.
Okay.
I'm talking to groups in every corner of the city.
Okay.
White, black, Hispanic, every background that you can imagine. And while there's a lot of darkness that has clouded our city over the many years,
certainly,
there's still a lot of optimism and hope.
Certainly.
That's what drives and inspires me, is being able to represent a new generation of leadership. I always tell people that I'm the next generation. I've been poured into by the older generation. I'm still feel connected to the younger generation. I've been working for 20 years in community development, and it's time for our generation to step up. And that's why I'm jumping in this race.
Wow. I appreciate you saying that. I guess the only thing about, and it has nothing to do with you, I think the only issue I have with the entire election is that for African-American participation, and we can look at it statistically across the board in the city of Memphis, we're not always the highest demographic in terms of our ethnic group, not demographic, as it relates to coming out to vote.
Right.
And that bugs me. I think that with our numbers in the city, we ought to have a greater representation. And that frightens me, if you let me say it that way, as it relates to the number of African-American candidates vying for this position.
Yeah.
I would think that we would have some kind of collective where we could come together and say, you know what, let's make some decisions about who's going to run, and then let's throw our support behind that person so we are assured of the fact that we can maintain the position of mayor in the city of Memphis. Man, I've just thinking about all the people that are in the race. And so you're talking about going into a ballot box, and you got a ballot in front of you, and you got to make some decisions about who you're going to choose for mayor, and you're looking at 1,000 names.
Yep.
And let's just go and tell the truth that in Memphis politics, it's more personality driven.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Than issue driven.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I always tell people, people ask me, who's your biggest competition in the race? And what I tell them is, it's no one individual. It's
No.
the fact that we have 20 people in the race. That's my biggest competition.
That is your biggest competition.
And so what I have strived to do is, one, I'm committed to working harder than any other candidate out there. You see events, activities, you're going to see Paul Young there, or Paul Young representation, because I think it's really, really important that we really, really touch the people of our city, because they just don't know. For far too long in our community, we vote based on the name we know.
Certainly.
And not based on what they've done in their offices. And so what I'm running on is a track record of results. I mean, I've been doing the work for the past 20 years.
So what have you done?
So I've been working in community development. So
wow.
I've worked in pretty much every neighborhood in our city. So programs around rental and utility assistance that I've established. I established the city's first housing trust fund, first time ever. If you drive down East Parkway and see the new 200,000 square foot youth sports facility, that our Memphis youth are now able to engage in competitive sports. That was a project that wouldn't happen without my leadership. Historic Melrose in Orange Mound, a building that's been vacant since 1979, now has new life as a library and genealogy center focused on African-American history because of my leadership. Binghamton, Tillman Cove, new apartment complexes that are coming up all across the city. And the list goes on. I can rail off probably about 10 or 15 more. But suffice it to say, I've been in the communities doing the work. I've been at the neighborhood meetings, talking to the people in our community. So I know what they're looking for. I know what kind of leadership they want.
So are you making sure that this information gets to the public? And here's why I'm saying that. Unfortunately, with so many different candidates, that information has to go out. And here is the deal. You know, I was listening to something the other night that really caught my attention, and I want to bring it in terms of carryover. You know, I think we're in a day and time, and I hope I can say it that way, where what's more important to people is a proven track record versus just the normal, natural political jargon.
Right.
You know, the comical thing is, man, the other night on CEN, they were showing the results of the town hall meeting with former Vice President Pence. And he was asked a couple of questions, and to be quite frank with you, man, on every question, he dodged the answer. And he made a statement about 45 and him putting himself above the Constitution, and he had great issue with that, and then danced on past that question to say, but if he is chosen as the nominee, I will support that fully. I'm done. Now, I'm not a Republican, but I am saying, in the hearts and minds of people who are watching that, you should have been done with this cat. You instantly. It's like you were 10 minutes away from being tortured, tarred and feathered.
Yeah, I mean,
you were being used as a scapegoat for Trump maintaining the presidency. And then you were verbally abused by the president for your unwillingness. I mean, are you an idiot?
Yeah, that was one of the craziest things I've ever witnessed in politics.
Is that not crazy?
It was definitely crazy. I mean, my guess is that he was given a political answer.
But that's the problem.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think that's what people are tired of, is they want authenticity. They want realness. And while I've been in politics, I'm not of politics. Like, I've never been the politician, but I've been able to navigate through the bureaucracy to get results. And so my goal is to keep that energy. My goal is to keep that when someone asks me a question, I actually answer. Because I think that's important, and that's what people are looking for. They want somebody who can just speak their heart and be who they are at all times in any environment.
It's important to us because in this election, particularly with any debates that are upcoming, people are going to ask real questions. And
as they should.
And we have to have real answers. And we cannot have, prepared sentences and phrases and political jargon that make absolutely no sense whatsoever. We need, because we're in a city that still has incredible potential.
No question about it.
It's interesting when you think about, because now 30 to 40 years ago, when Atlanta was behind Memphis. And of course, if we talk about Atlanta, we already know Atlanta was flipped. and it has just become this incredible place where there are now millions of people.
Yeah. In fact, we had an event in Atlanta back in March, and I talked about this at the beginning of my speech because I was talking about the darkness that we felt in our city because of some of the negative crime and violent things we've seen take place over the past year. And I brought up the point that in 1979 to 1981, Atlanta had that same cloud over it. And I actually read about it.
Certainly.
When there were young black boys being kidnapped and killed in Atlanta. And everybody was talking about how they're ready to leave Atlanta and how Atlanta was trash and it would never make it. Now look at the city now. So they went through that period of darkness, and there was something better on the other side. And Atlanta still has its problems, but they have some things that we envy. They have some prosperity that we envy and we want to ambition towards.
So how did Memphis get here?
I think it was a couple of decisions. I mean, now you're going to get my planner to come out. I'm a city planner. But I think there were some development decisions that we made that completely changed the character of our city.
Okay.
What I mean by that is in 1981, the city of Memphis approved a comprehensive plan where we said that we want to grow. We want to be bigger. At that point in time, our city was about 220 square miles, which is still pretty big. We had about 630,000 people. We said, all right, we want to grow. So we built an 18-mile sewer extension, which led to the growth of areas like Cordova. The eastern part of Shelby County grew as a result.
Certainly.
When we did that, the people that were in the core, so there's South Memphis, North Memphis, Whitehaven, Oakhaven, where I grew up, all of these areas, it wasn't just white flight.
Okay.
It was economic flight. Anybody with means, they moved to one of these areas so they could get a new home, where they can get somewhere with, a garage and granite countertops.
Okay.
They left, and our inner city suffered. The schools began to go down. Businesses began to leave because they were chasing those households. That's what led to a lot of the blight and disinvestment that you see in our city. And I think it has had, and we grew to be about 325 square miles as a city, but we only added 20,000 people. We had about 650,000 people.
Oh, wow.
So think about that.
Oh, wow.
Think about services. Think about picking up the trash. Think about policing, fire, mass transit, getting people to and from. You now have a much bigger geography where you're trying to move people with the same tax base.
And it doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
Yeah.
And so that's why the focus now has to be on building up density, bringing people back into the core of the city, getting more households, building up our tax base so that you have more resources to pay for the things that we need.
So how specifically, in terms of a 1, 2, 3, do you make Memphis more attractive again and coming back into the city? Because there was a time, seemingly, when downtown, I would venture to say within the last 3 to 5 years, it looked as if it was becoming vibrant and alive again. Is that still the case? What do we need to do?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple of things that we need to do. Downtown specifically, you're right. Pre-pandemic, man, things were really, really booming. And some of it had to do with Nashville, actually. Nashville was doing so well.
Certainly.
And there were investors that were coming from across the country that target Tennessee. They go to Nashville, see it's too expensive, and then they'd come to Memphis and say, all right, well, can't do it there. Let's see what we can do in Memphis. And that led to a lot of our interest. The pandemic kind of flipped things on its head.
Certainly.
Costs went up. Downtown is still doing well, but like the rest of the city, we have this issue with crime that has shaped people's perceptions. There are people that are concerned about whether they should invest or not. And so we're working really hard with MPD and others to make sure that we're addressing those issues. But to the broader point of how do we reverse those years of people leaving the core, I think you do a couple of things. One, you clean neighborhoods up. The way that our communities look, just from a blight perspective, is appalling. And we have to focus on cleaning them up. Two, I think we identify the heartbeat in each neighborhood community and start our public investments there. And what I mean by that is we did a comprehensive plan where we talked about how we revitalize our neighborhoods. And what we said is we want to identify the anchors, the heartbeats of each community, the place where it defines a neighborhood. If it's Hickory Hill, you're thinking Winchester and Hickory Hill. If it's Orange Mound, you're thinking Park Avenue. If it's Klondike, Smoky City, then you're talking about Jackson. Like these are the anchors in the neighborhoods. We invest in the space that are the visible defining areas of the communities, and it changes where capital wants to go, because it says, all right, well, things are happening in Hickory Hill. I need to do more here. And they go to a street over. And so, that anchor strategy is going to be really, really important. And then the last thing is, providing opportunities for our people.
Okay.
I mean, at the end of the day, when people have jobs, when they have access to grow their careers and their lives, then you're much more likely to see more investment in neighborhoods and communities, more businesses, and all those things thrive.
So we're challenged with the job piece because of the fact of, obviously, the things that happened during the pandemic.
Yeah.
Money that's come from the government, federal dollars. While they have helped many, they have hurt us in so many different ways. And so to talk about folks who are not returning to work, not in pursuit of a job, going to work, leaving the next day, and all the kind of foolishness is hitting the country hard. It's not just hitting Memphis hard.
Every industry.
And so that, it raises the issue of how do we get people back to a mindset of work? Mm-hmm. We need some challenges specifically for our own ethnic group, like our own folks. We need something under the surface that reignites a passion and drive to get back to work, to build my life, to have a quality home, and not live out government assistance. And I don't know completely how we do that. It was interesting, man, listening the other night to Morgan Freeman challenge some of the things. And when I say things, the messages that are emanating from African-American community, only to suggest that we are hindering our own people. We are kind of stymieing our own people by allowing ourselves to be so reliant on government sources. Some of the things he said I really don't agree with, but in what appears to be the arrogance of a Morgan Freeman, I didn't take it that way. I took it to suggest that to a certain extent he is right. There's some things that we're going to have to do for ourselves.
Yeah.
And I think that we have come to the position where we are lazy, and we act as if we have a sense of entitlement where the federal government is concerned, which I don't understand that, because they have proven they don't owe us anything. They've gone out of their way to justify that message.
Yeah, I think some of the ways that those programs have been historically structured are part of the challenge. For instance, if you are getting assistance for housing, if you can only work X amount of hours.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And if you work more, then you lose your assistance. And the reality is there are so many people that are on the cusp of poverty, that are right there on the edge. And if you lose that little bit of assistance on that housing, then everything falls apart. And so I think the federal government and those managing programs, like I used to do, have to be thinking about how you adjust some of those policies so that people can grow such that they can wean themselves off of the assistance. Because it's not one of those things where I needed it yesterday and now today I'm good.
Yeah.
It's like, well, this year I may need this much. Next year I might need this much, depending on how the career goes. And I think we definitely need those safety net programs, but I do think that we have to figure out how do we shift such that the resources aren't there forever and people can get to self-sufficiency. I mean, that's always the end goal, is to get to self-sufficiency where you can operate in this economy and live out your dreams and be able to afford what you need to be successful in our community.
So what's the difference in your heart and mind between a Nashville and a Memphis? What is called the upsurge in Nashville versus Memphis?
Well, one thing that I will say, and I'll speak of it from a development perspective because I'm a city planner. Nashville, when you look at their metropolitan area, they aren't surrounded by poverty. Okay. You look at their MSA, it's not a poor MSA. We are in the Delta, one of the poorest regions in the country. And so when you look at Memphis being the magnet, the center city, we are a magnet for those that don't have a lot. So if you're coming from these rural areas of Mississippi, rural areas of Arkansas and Tennessee, and you're coming from an impoverished community, you're coming to the big city, but you're coming with limited means.
Why wouldn't Nashville be more attractive for that than Memphis?
But Nashville is not surrounded by that level of poverty.
Well, I grant you that, but I'm saying if I'm coming from a rural existence and I'm looking for an opportunity,
Because it's just further.
Yeah.
It's just further away.
Okay.
It's just further away.
So is the issue that it's further away, or is it that, because you're saying that we're a magnet for that, and
I'm saying we're a magnet within our region.
No, I get you.
Okay, got you.
Yeah, I get you. I just think I wish that it weren't so.
Right.
That it wasn't so, rather.
Right.
I wish that it was a situation whereby we were drawing the flip of that.
Yeah. Well, I think we can begin to change it.
Okay.
I think we have to think as a region. I think for far too long as a city, we think it's Memphis versus Germantown.
And that's
Memphis
not true.
versus DeSoto County, Memphis versus Olive Branch. We are not competing against those suburban municipalities. They need Memphis and Memphis needs them. We're competing against the Birmingham MSA.
But do you
Atlanta.
really believe that, though, Paul?
I 200% believe.
Now let me say what I'm saying. So when we start talking South Haven and Olive Branch, you feel like South Haven and Olive Branch still need Memphis.
Yeah.
Why?
When you look at their economic development, when they advertise and recruit to bring jobs to their community,
Certainly.
Look at one of their ads. What they say is, we're 15 minutes from the airport. We're 15 minutes from downtown Memphis, the cultural assets. In order for them to recruit the jobs that they want and they need Memphis.
So
they need our infrastructure.
So how is it then, on the periphery of our city, Olive Branch and the South Haven they're doing so well in terms of population growth, in terms of the business sector? How is that occurring around us and not coming to us?
I mean, it's the same phenomenon that I talked about when I mentioned that Memphis was growing and expanding and we built the sewer line. It's those that have means are moving to those areas because they're perceived to be safer. They're newer. The housing stock is more refreshed. And when you have that, then the businesses follow, and you have a Goodman Road where you have all of the different, commercial assets that you need. Those types of things happen when communities begin to grow. In terms of how we reverse it and flip it, we got to make Memphis a place that people want to be. We got to invest in things that are cool, the vibe, the experience that you have, particularly in downtown Memphis, and even in areas like Whitehaven and Raleigh. We have to invest in new housing stock. We got to invest in the old housing stock because people are making human choices. Like, they literally are going with their family and saying, which house do you like and which one has a garage? Which one can I get a media room? Like, those are the types of decisions that people are making.
Certainly.
And if I'm going to a neighborhood and you don't have those choices for my home, then I'm not picking it. And that's what's happening.
I'm going somewhere else.
I'm going to go where it is,
Yeah.
where it exists. And so when we think about rebuilding our neighborhoods and communities, we need to invest in the range of housing choices.
So how do you do that? You're becoming mayor, and let's put you in a position. You are now the mayor, city of Memphis.
Speak it.
How do you? Well, I mean, we come from a prophetic background.
Oh yeah, I know. That's why I said speak it.
How do you? Because traditionally, let's be real historic and traditional, in a sense of, Strickland is our mayor.
Yep.
Past, I guess, Strickland, our representation in terms of the mayor's office looked like you.
Yep.
So did we miss something? Did he miss something? Because my impression of a Strickland is he comes after a mayor whereby he has to kind of really clean up some things and restructure some things. So how does a Paul Young do what the other mayors have not been able to do?
Well, I think,
is that a fair question?
I think it's a fair question for sure. But my answer is that I think there's a season, there's a time, and I'm the right person at the right time. And my approach is to be this bridge builder. I think that's what Memphis needs right now, is somebody who's going to unify our city, who can go in any room and give the same message. When I go, it doesn't matter if I'm in Westwood or East Memphis, I'm saying the exact same thing. And it's all about empowering our people. There are 5 pillars to the campaign. It's public safety. We got to make our community safer if things are going to happen. If we're going to get investment, it's got to happen. We got to clean up our neighborhoods. We got to focus on recruiting big jobs and supporting our small businesses. We got to invest in our youth in a way that we've never done before, and programs that are going to support them. And we got to invest in a thriving arts and culture scene, this scene that is carrying the Memphis brand all across this country. Mm-hmm. I firmly believe that is going to be the formula for our success. Memphis, like you said, has always been a city that has potential. We've always had it.
Okay.
Our people are our best currency.
Certainly.
We got some of the coolest, most flavorful people in the world.
Yes.
Right here in Memphis.
Yes.
Our vibe is second to none. But we have been our own worst critics. We've let 1% of our population define who we are. It's 1% of our population that's committing crimes, is busting windows and kicking in doors, but that's all we talk about. We don't.
Because that's what's
part of it
happening
is the
around us.
narrative.
Yeah.
And the way our world is structured, where we see everything in real time. You pull out this phone right now. If something just happened, we all know in this room in real time.
Yeah, and the opposite. We don't know the other thing.
Right. And you're not getting that other news. And so I think part of it is communicating our story effectively and changing the perception of the people that live here and those outside of our city to promote the good and continue to push our city in the right direction.
So we want that to happen. We need for that to happen. We need more involved leadership.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, and that's when I'm on the campaign trail, what I tell people is that our mayor has to be our chief ambassador, our chief convener that's bringing the people together at all levels, because we have so many disparate institutions and programs and churches. And what we need is a leader who's going to say, here's the flag in the ground, and this is where we're all going to go, where we're all headed. And I'm going to pull us there together. Because the mayor can't do it by himself.
No, mayor can't do it by himself. And I would venture to say that in this season, it's a make or break issue.
It is a make or break.
It's a make or break issue. We cannot become a depressed city. We cannot afford.
We can't
to become a depressed city. And so I think that if there was ever a time whereby we needed to, quite honestly, make up our minds that we're going to do it, it's now. And it is everybody involved. You're right. It's a Germantown. It's a Collierville.
It's all of us.
Yeah,
we can't do it together unless we do it together. I mean, it's really, really critical right now. I tell people that this is the moment for Memphis. Like, we're either going to go up or we're going to go down. And we're going to go way down. And if we stay the same, we're going down because somebody else is going up. And the leadership we elect matters. The question that I think the voters and the citizens should be asking, in addition to what have you done to demonstrate that you're going to be able to do anything that you're telling us, they should also be asking us which of these candidates has the highest likelihood of taking us to a place that we've never been.
So how do we make the judgment based on the candidates and the rhetoric that they're giving us? How do we make that decision? Because first of all, again, there's so many candidates.
Yeah, I think having conversations like, some of the candidates won't stay in. My hope is that some of them, because they have good hearts and they're doing it for pure reasons. Like, they really believe that they're the right one. But it's going to be abundantly clear over the next couple of weeks whether or not you're going to be able to gain the traction to become our mayor. And my hope is that those that don't gain the traction will do for the good of the city, get out of the race. But I think it's up to people like you, up to leaders in the community to vet us, bring us on platforms like this, have in-depth conversations so that people can see and hear people's heart. Because it doesn't matter what anybody says they're going to do. When they get in that job, it's going to come at you from all angles.
And we got to hold people accountable.
And you got to hold people accountable, and you want to know what is their heart, what's their value proposition, how are you going to make the decision that you don't know you're going to have to make, and what place are you making it from? Like, that's what these types of settings do, is that you can really hear people out. It's not, give me a 60-second response in a debate. Yeah,
and I don't want the canned answer.
Right. You got to go beyond that.
But to affect the canned answer, I think you got to have a different kind of question.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's what is going to help us to hear and make right decisions about who's going to represent the city of Memphis. I think that, again, with so many people in the race, I think you're right. Debates are important. We just don't want debates where it's a trash situation. No. Mm-hmm. We need a debate whereby we're dealing with real questions. Because I certainly agree that this is our season to make a significant change. I think predominantly that the question of the police in the city of Memphis, the crime in the city of Memphis, and what we do like right now,
right,
to make those changes. Do we have the right director? I mean, the plan that's in place, is it going to work for us? And I love the police director. Had her on the show. I think she is great. She left here. I was incredibly impressed with her. So this is not about her.
Right.
No. This is about, do we have the right person in place? What changes do we need to make? It seems like we're great, and I could be wrong, greatly understaffed in terms of
no question
a police presence on the street. It feels as if police are being challenged more by criminals, as if to say, you can't do anything. And here's what hurts my heart more than anything. We'll take a Tyree Nichols and those kinds of situations that have happened across the country. And they are broadly used by criminals and our folks to defy police authority in our neighborhoods. To the extent you can't tell me nothing, you can't do nothing to me. And it bugs me because I am not of the mindset that the majority of the police department like unto these brothers that did this. I just don't believe that. We've got a full score of police officers in our church. Not only do I love them, I support them. I'm a clergy, participant. And so I fully believe in the police department. I fully believe in the leadership of the police department. But it's not just her. Granted, she's still there. It becomes your understanding now as mayor, because you're going to be mayor, to deal with this. And we mentioned Atlanta, and there was a point at which, Atlanta became incredibly aggressive in terms of bodies on the street and the way they handle crime. Another city, New York, became very, very aggressive.
Right.
New York was at the high rung on crime. Detroit, another city, a very depressed city at one time, became and is yet becoming more aggressive with police presentation on the street, but how they're dealing with some crazy issues. Because I've been, and I fly and I travel all the time, and I asked the police director about what's happening on the street with the driving and the craziness and all this kind of stuff, and albeit her response to it made all the sense in the world, but it is frightening people.
Yeah, it is.
So what do we do with that?
I mean, when you start talking about policing, what I tell people is that we have three issues. We have a culture. We need to root out the culture that we saw on that play out on that video. It is not most police officers. No. But there is a subculture, and we don't just see that in Memphis. We see it everywhere across the country. We got to root it out wherever it is within MPD. Personnel, which you touched on. We don't have enough officers. We have to restore trust in the police department so that trust between the community and the police department so that people are willing to become officers, because we got to get those numbers up if we're ever going to be able to police the city in the way that we need to. And then the last thing is efficiency. Our officers are being asked to do so much. They're being asked to be the mental health counselor. They're asked to come when there's monitoring for, like, they're being asked to do everything, and we got to figure out what tasks can civilians do versus our uniformed police officers. I often give the example of when an inmate or when someone is arrested, certainly, and they take them downtown to process them. It takes them 3 hours to process an individual. 3 hours. That means that officer has to sit there with the person that they're arresting for the next 3 hours. That is a waste of time for them.
Total waste of time.
They could be out on the streets. But those are the types of efficiencies that we should be looking to find, because while we do need more officers, we also need to be more efficient with what we have. Yeah. We've been trying to get more officers for the past 7-8 years. Yes. But the question is, what do we do in the meantime? Where can we find those efficiencies to make best use of who we have right now today?
So you're mayor. Your first order of business is what?
My first order of business is to bring the people together. And when I say the people, I mean all of the players that are touching the public safety realm. During the pandemic, we had calls daily around the level of the virus in our community. And it was people from all across the community, from the hospitals, from nonprofits, from the housing coalitions to, every division of city government, the parks. Everybody was on the phone. Then it dropped to weekly. They had a press conference every week where we were talking about the level of the virus in our community. We need that level of intentionality right now around resolving the public safety issues that we're seeing. Because right now, it's not just the actual events that we're seeing, it's the perception of safety. It's the fact that everybody is feeling unsafe. Everywhere they go, it's in the back of their mind. It's in the back of my mind. I'm watching every time I pull up at the gas station.
Yeah, it is.
I'm nervous when my wife leaves at night. Like those things, we have to restore the perception of safety in our community. And in order to do it, we need a mayor that's going to bring all of the players to the table. We talk about the young people getting out of jail as soon as they go to get arrested and they go before the juvenile. Like, let's sit down with the juvenile court judges. Let's sit down with their staff. Let's understand what the process is and how we as a community can own these challenges that we have. That's the leadership that we need right now in this moment. And that's my day one. I'm trying to hold those types of convenings and walk away with some action steps where we have recurring dialogues to stay on top of this.
What happens when you're hearing the same responses?
Yeah.
Because, first of all, let me be honest and say Strickland has not done that. So I'm going past that. Yeah, he has not done it. And I don't dislike Strickland. In fact, I really, really like Strickland. Know him very well. He's a great, great person.
Yep.
I don't know if he was the person for the job. And I'll be honest about that. It has nothing to do with him personally. Sometimes you can have a person who's in the position, great person. They just have skills.
Yeah.
They have a skill set to do that job. But we got to get past the same response. Because I don't know. I think you're great at articulating the message. And I think you have a great understanding. I don't know if people know what they need. And I think because people are so confused.
People don't know what we need.
Yeah.
But this is the thing. What I tell people is my commitment is to stay at the table.
Okay.
Because the problem that happens I've been working in local government for a long time. I've been doing this for 20 years.
Okay.
I've been in a lot of different convenings around different issues, whether it's community development, whether it's greenway planning and all these things that I've done. And what I know is that it's much easier. People use the word collaboration very, very loosely. But real collaboration is hard because that means that I can't just do whatever I want.
You got to consider
that means I got to consider your opinions. That means before I make these decisions, I need to tell you that this is the direction that we're going and how is it going to impact what you're doing.
And most people are not interested, or most officials are not really interested.
Yeah, because they don't have to.
Yeah.
They don't have to stay at the table.
This is true.
But my goal is to make sure that we stay at the table because the people that lose are the citizens. The people in our communities are the ones that lose when we don't stay at the table. And so, of course, we're going to hear things. We're going to disagree. We're going to fight. We're going to argue. We're going to have it out. But we got to stay at the table because it's for the benefit of the people of our city.
So let me ask you two other questions that are really, really heavy questions. Number one, and while I may not believe it, I want to ask it. If all the stars don't align themselves and you don't become our mayor, what do you continue to do?
Well, I'm the president of Downtown Memphis Commission right now. I have an amazing job. So I'd love to stay there. If the board saw fit to not have me there, then I'd find another way to give. I mean, for me, I'm not running because I want to be a great politician and a long-term Like, I'm running because I've been training for this job my whole career. So I'm running for purpose.
Okay.
I'm running to walk in my purpose. And, if God sees fit for that not to be my purpose and he has another path, then I'm ready to walk it.
Okay.
That's why I go through this race with the utmost confidence because I know without a shadow of a doubt that it's in God's hands.
Okay. Okay.
So I have the utmost confidence that whatever is supposed to happen will.
Okay. How have you, are you seeing yourself as the millennial favorite?
I wouldn't say I'm anybody's favorite yet. I think that there are certainly younger people that are rallying around the message. that see themselves in me or
Okay.
see me in them, or however you want to say it. And that's part of what I talked about with that middle child. I don't know if you probably don't listen to a lot of rap, but there's a rap song called
wait,
I don't know, man. You might. My bad.
Why did he just... See, it's that Android phone coming up.
Hey, that wasn't on camera, man. You're supposed to be talking about the Android. No, but there's a rap song by J. Cole where he calls himself middle child.
Okay.
And he says, I'm big bro and I'm little bro all at once.
Oh,
so
okay.
I kind of represent that when I talked about the older generation pouring into me and being connected to that younger generation. So I do feel like that's going to be something that resonates. I represent this next generation of leadership, and I am, I guess, right now the youngest candidate in the race. And so I could see them being connected to that.
So when are we going to have a debate where everybody comes together, or is there something like that on the calendar?
I mean, you got to ask them. I always show up.
Okay, all right.
I mean, people are strategic in how they pick what debates they want to go to. I think as we get later into the race, it's still kind of early. I mean, it's getting into the season now that you can actually file. But after July 20th. Really the 27th, which is the last date you can file is July 20th. July 27th, you can pull it back. So after July 27th, I think things will get a little more serious and people will show up.
We need a forum whereby everybody shows up so we can have real conversation.
Yeah.
And that's going to make all the difference in the world. We got to hear some things.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it's important for the public to be able to compare all of us, compare our messages.
Yeah, we got to hear some things, Paul. We really got to hear some things.
But my hope is that it's not relegated to one debate, and that we use that as the barometer, because
that's not enough.
It's not enough. No. I mean, you can't. There's only so much you can take from a 60-second response to a question that is really, really, really in depth.
Yeah. That
requires deep strategy. Because then it becomes who can give the best overviews, but who can actually dig into the weeds and really come up with a cohesive strategy to deal with some of these issues that have plagued our community for the last 60, 70 years.
Yeah, and
because none of this stuff is new.
No, and you're not going to hear strategy in those sessions. You're going to hear some of the answers that are quick because you're trying to deal with that.
Yeah. So you need both ends. You need both ends.
Well, I wish we could come up with some kind of forum whereby it is obviously more conversational and structured so you have a fair opportunity to address something.
I think these are the forums. Okay. I think a series of sit downs on podcasts and with leaders where you're doing it one-on-one, where you can have a direct 30-minute conversation that can touch on a lot of different topics. I think that's the way that you, especially in this generation, where you can just have a series of 13 different clips where you click on each one and hear, and you can listen to them at midnight or whenever you want to. I think those types of opportunities are really, really important.
So we have reached out to Bonner and he has not responded to us, and we've reached out more than once. And this is comical to me, particularly because I was in a session with him the latter part of last year, I want to say.
Yeah.
And in our conversation, I'm running for mayor. Love for you to consider giving us your support. And I said, in that time, would love to sit down and talk. So he knows who I am. Mm-hmm. Certainly I know who he is. And, the question that comes from me is, how do we get you in one of these chairs so that you can answer some questions? Because I want you to measure for me your level of leadership and authority in the county versus what you're going to be able to accomplish in the city. I want to hear that.
Yeah.
Because I want you to show me if you've been successful in the county so that I can make some decisions based on that for the city of Memphis. Yeah. And those are questions. And so, because, like I said, beyond the pulpit,
I think you should be pushing all of us. Yeah. I mean, those are the questions that all of us should be able to
we can draw that comparison.
Yeah.
We can draw that comparison. But our podcast is a real podcast. So this ain't hug you, love you, glad you showed up.
Right.
Yeah. No, I want to know if you've been the leadership, and I'm not talking about the mayor's office, I was as a sheriff. If you've been the leadership, what about that qualifies you, prepares you for the city of Memphis? Because we're talking about two totally different positions,
100%
two totally
agree.
different understandings, and certainly different levels of responsibility. So how does that transfer over? Now, granted, there are some things that are going to transfer over. I mean, that's an easy pull.
Yeah.
However, talk to me about what made you think that this was the thing to do.
For me.
No. For him.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to ask that question.
Okay.
Oh, my God, I'm going to ask that question. Because I think it's that kind of question that puts you in a position to say, well, here's why I believe that.
Well, I mean, I think first you have to understand the job. You got to know what the mayor's job is. And so I think that should be the starting point for all of us. I'm not just speaking about him. I'm speaking about all of us.
No, and I appreciate that, because I'm not just talking about Bonner. I'm talking about Michelle.
Right.
Turner. I'm talking about everybody who has signed up and said, I want to be mayor.
Mm-hmm.
Come sit in our chair.
Yeah. Well, I'm here and I'll come back. Because, I mean, like I said, I've been working towards this my whole career. I understand the role of mayor. In fact, I started, thinking about this many, many years ago when I was the director of housing. And, I saw how the process went in terms of things that we were looking to do in neighborhoods and communities. And, I would go and have meetings with Mayor Strickland. And Mayor Strickland is great. I love Mayor Strickland. That's a friend.
Yeah, no, I have nothing
But what I
against
realized when I was doing that is, what if the mayor had a community development perspective? What if the mayor came from that background? Memphis has never had a mayor that literally went to school to determine how do you build a great city. That's what city planners do.
Mm.
That's what I went to school to do. In graduate school. In undergrad, I was in electrical engineering. It's all about solving problems. And so I've been applying that to my career for the past 20 years. And so what that told me is that there may be an opportunity in the future for you to go to this level. And God has saw fit over the course of my career to prepare me for a time such as this, for this role right now. I'm not someone who has to be trained on what the functions are. You don't have to teach me on how do you move this money over here and what dollars can be used for these purposes. I was the one doing it for the mayor. So I was the person that has been behind the scenes for many years, making mayors look good, not just Strickland, because I worked for Mayor Luttrell on the county side as well as AC Warden. So I've been doing this work. And I think it's time for Memphis to have a mayor that has that deep level of understanding and somebody who goes in purely for the people. I'll say it again. I'm not running because I want to go be governor, go be senator. There's no other political office that I would run for because I want to do this job. I don't need the job. I probably make more money now. I'm pretty sure I make more money now than I will as mayor.
But it's not about the money.
But it's not about the money. It's about wanting to go do the work for real. So that's what drives me. I can't speak to the other folks.
I respect that. Well, I tell you what we're going to do. First of all, thank you for being here.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for the answers. Thank you for the genuineness. I'm be straight up with it. We're going to reach out again to these other candidates. Now, in fairness, some of them we have not reached out to. Michelle got great relationship. I've known.
Yeah, she seemed like good people.
She's good people. I've known Michelle forever, and we've worked together in school systems, and just for me, a great person. And we're going to reach out to her and get her on. I think she needs to be heard because there again is how do you transfer over, and what does that bring? I know the school system is its own community, so to speak. I get that, I understand that, but how do we relate? Turner, I'm going to make that same reach again, and hopefully he will respond. And we're going to make some decisions. I said the city of Memphis is going to make some decisions based upon what they hear. As a pastor of a thriving church, I feel that along with other pastors, it's our responsibility to put not only our own congregants, but people in general in a position to hear so that they can make some intelligent decisions. And I tell you what, man, I think that it ought to be aggressive.
Yeah,
I think if a brother is high side and if a sister who's running is not telling the truth, you ought to be able to look them in the face and say, with all due respect, I ain't buying it. If I had been in that town hall meeting when Pence was being questioned, if they had given me a mic, I would have said to the brother, if if you were depending on my vote, you lost it because I don't believe you. I cannot believe your life being in jeopardy. I cannot believe you understanding what happened in a backroom status that almost caused you to be tarred and feathered, that you're going to tell me that you're going to support this cat who cares nothing about you and has spoken that publicly, has no issue talking about you publicly. And you reserve this wonderful respect and regard. Are you crazy?
Yeah.
So I would have challenged him. I think we need the same opportunity to say to cats, hey, you know that ain't right.
Right.
What are you talking? You know this is not going to work in the city of Memphis. You know this is the stuff we've been talking about 20 years. We know that you've been in a position where you could have changed some things where you were working and you haven't done a good job there. What in the world makes you think you can do it as a city, as a mayor? And in fairness, give them a chance to respond to it. You know, Chris Christie said the other day, he said, I was wrong. I did it wrong. Now, do I like him as a person? Love him as a person because he's just a great guy. As a politician, but I give him credit for the fact that he said, you know what, I jacked it up, and I jacked it up in a great way.
Well, people just want authenticity. They just want you to be real. Like
he said, I jacked it up.
We want to hear the real answers.
I was on the beach. I told you not to come to the beach.
Right.
But I figured since you was coming, well, no need to me not going. So, I mean, I got so tickled when I heard that. And it made sense. He said, you know, we shut down the beaches. I told all the citizens in Jersey not to come. He said, but you know, when I thought about it, if you going to stay at home, why should I stay at home? Funny stuff, wrong stuff.
Right.
You know, brother's wrong. But I guess what clicked for me is the honesty.
Yeah.
And he didn't just say that. He said that then. But long story short, I think they need to have the same opportunity that you've had to say,
definitely.
This is where I am.
Give them the opportunity.
And so we're going to be reaching out again to see if we can set something up where we can get 2 or 3 people. We've got another studio and see if we can make a change in the other studio. You know, we have to work hard to get in that other studio.
Yeah.
That's Conversations with Linda. You know, my wife has that studio and she's a little selfish with her studio. But
she don't let you in there.
Yeah, she don't like for us to be in there. We seem to take over, but we have her assistant, so we think we can get in that studio that will accommodate some other. You see the way she's looking right now. See, that just proves what I'm saying.
I wouldn't count on it, man. I wouldn't count on it.
So you saw the look right there. Yeah, okay.
It look like you don't get a lot of cooperation on that one.
I think we can twist them arms. Don't you, Quincy? Oh yeah. We can. See, they own the studio, but I own the sanctuary. Yeah. Oh my, it makes all the difference in the world.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we got a bigger studio.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got about 6, 7 cameras. So yeah, we got a bigger studio. But in all seriousness, man, I want to ask these cats to come together and round table if we can.
I'm down.
And let's sit at the table and let's have some conversations.
Yeah, I'm down. I mean, we've had conversations. We've done debates, at least most of us. And so, you know, we all have respect amongst us. Many of them I've worked with in the past. And the reality is there's just one job. And we got to make sure that the right person is in there. And whoever wins, we got to make sure that we rally behind them. Because at the end of the day,
we're still
it's
Memphis.
About advancing our city.
We're still Memphis.
We're still Memphis.
And that's cool. Well, I'm telling you, this has been great, man. You've done a phenomenal job just responding to the things that I've asked you. And again, I've got
you don't make it easy. I like that.
High respect for you, man.
Like
your dad meant the world to us. We loved him dearly, and
he loved y'all too.
I cannot say enough about him. And man, your dad was on the cutting edge when nobody was saying the things that he was saying.
Yeah,
white or black, nobody.
They actually have the Suicide in the Black Church Conference is coming up, and that's something that they started back in 2002 after, you know, one of our parishioners killed herself under the cross. And they've been blazing this trail for mental health.
Oh, gosh.
And, you know, faith, and trying to make sure that many people in our community understand that you got to pray and take your medicine.
But, man, so many counselors have come out of your mom and dad.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So many agencies have established because of their being very courageous.
Yeah. After he passed, I mean, I swear every other day somebody comes up and says what impact he had on their life. So
that's a cool thing.
Know, that's legacy right there.
That's a cool thing. And you look like him, so that's a cool thing.
Yeah, I've been hearing that too.
That's a cool thing. Well, Memphis, we're gonna love on this brother. We're gonna support him. We're gonna bring candidates together. We're gonna listen. We're gonna check them out. And together we're gonna make some decisions. I know you're checking us out. You don't live in Memphis. That's cool. We got you. Not a problem. Pray for us. Be supportive where you are of those who are in these same positions, who are facing these same challenges. We're all across the country. We got some outside of the country. Whatever your political process is, engage and be involved in it for the betterment of the people where you live. So we're going to do some things coming quickly because we need to have these kinds of conversations. Let me thank this brother again, Paul. Just excellent.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Excellent. And he will be back again. All right, y'all. You know my handle. We're spiritual, not churchy. We'll check you out next week. Get this wherever you stream your podcast from. You need to hear this. All right. This is Bishop. I'm out.
Thanks for listening to Beyond the Pulpit with Bishop Kevin. If you enjoyed this conversation, please be sure to like and leave a review wherever you get your podcasts. To stay connected with Bishop and Beyond the Pulpit podcast, follow at Beyond the Pulpit the podcast on all social media platforms. See you next week.